history and tradition are indispensable part of a society, culture and nation. Every nation, every culture, every society is built on its history and tradition. Let's learn about the tradition and the history of our city, San Bernardino. Welcome to Wordnet Productions, and I'm Father Sony Sebastian. I'm so happy to introduce to you our guest today, Nick Cataldo. Nick is the president of the San Bernardino Historical and Pioneer Society, and he has been serving in this capacity for so many years. He took a break, and now he's back again as the president. Nick, welcome to Wordnet.
Okay, thank you, Father Sebastian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for accepting our invitation and to be on our show
it's
to share your wonderful and beautiful memories and experiences of being part of this wonderful city of San Bernardino.
Well, it has been I lived most of my life in San Bernardino. I'm originally from the state of New Jersey, and I was not quite 12 years old when my family and I moved out here. And how we got to San Bernardino, I had an uncle that was living out here. That's why we moved here, of all places. And we drove cross country on Route 66 highway, which will...
Well, the famous Route 66.
That's right. And
the fact that you have been a person living here, as you said, for so many years. Tell me more about yourself. You are the president of Historical and Pioneer Society of San Bernardino.
That's correct.
Tell me about yourself as well as what this society is all about.
Okay. Well, first of all, I joined in 1980. I was 25 years old, and I was one of the young guys. I was probably the youngest member of the group. I've been serving on the board of directors most of that time. And I was a president back in 1990 to 93. I've done publications. I'm we call it editor of our publications, and I do programs and what have you. And the Historical Society is very important to me. I've always been a history nut. I mean, ever since even when I was living in New Jersey, where I'm originally from, I used to watch westerns on TV. With my grandparents in the early 60s, and I just I was fascinated with history, and I didn't know where the West was back when I was a kid. The furthest west I'd been was Philadelphia, but we moved out here and we found out this is the West. I really got into the history of the area, and with the Historical Society, our goal is to educate the public, the residents, and the surrounding area of the public, and as well as becoming a conservatory for the future. So educating others and preserving the past as much as we can.
What is the kind of tangible, standout difference that you have found in the West specifically when you compare with the East or the South?
I say geographically, the variation. I as much as you mentioned, there's a wide variation throughout the country. I lived on the East Coast, and I go back and I visit. My wife's family in South Carolina, my family in New Jersey, and I see more of a diverse geography and culture in the West. That's my personal. There's the mountains are higher. That's for certain. We have deserts. We have, of course, we have the beach. We have mountains. We have valleys. You
have also climatically too. It changes.
Oh, very much so.
Very much.
It really does. Yeah.
Now, Nick, you have been and you are the president of the Historical Pioneer Society of the City of San Bernardino. how does, now as a historian, I'm sure you know more, where does this name San Bernardino come from to our city?
San Bernardino is named after, according to well, legend, as far as what we've read, named after Saint Bernadine.
Saint Bernardine.
Who was a 14th century priest in Siena, Italy.
Yeah.
And there was a feast day. So according to, we don't know if it's true or not, it's been acknowledged as true, but supposedly on May 20th, 1810, is Father Dumatz, who was one of the priests at San Gabriel Mission, was coming out in this area. Because
San Gabriel Mission would be somewhere about 80 to nearly 100 miles.
Yeah, about that.
Here.
You're right.
Yeah,
Close
yeah.
to to Los Angeles in
Yeah,
that
to
area.
Los Angeles area.
But San Gabriel, the mission was there. It was founded, I believe, it was 1772. But there were plans to build an inland chain of missions, kind of like a sub-missions, and they were coming out in the San Bernardino Valley area. And according to legend, on May 20th, 1810, Father Dumatz was out in this area, and he named the area San Bernardino after the feast day
of Saint Bernardine.
Well,
Well, I don't know. I'm sure you know. Right down the street, about 1 block from here, we have the famous Saint Bernardine's
St. Bernardine's Church, and that's the
named
I believe
after
it's the third church, third St. Bernardine's, built in 1910.
third
That's the
church in
cornerstone.
San Bernardino,
That's right.
Yeah.
First we have St. Bernardine's Medical Center.
Medical Center,
That's right,
yes,
too.
yes.
So, yeah.
Named after him as well.
that's right.
Well, you mentioned about the mission and the early missionaries who came to the West Coast and who established the many missions.
Right.
And as far as I can understand, you might correct me as a historian, it was the missionaries who went from one place to the other establishing the missions, and things were all kind of established around the mission, right?
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah, when Father Serra,
Yeah,
the first
Junipero
Franciscan,
Serra.
he started the first mission, I believe it was in San Diego.
Yes, San Diego.
And then, you know, there were,
San Diego de Alcala.
right, I believe there were 21, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know the year either, but that was.
But how many, yeah. And that was the plan. They had supposedly that each mission was within a day of walking, and I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's
Could be, yeah.
a lot of
because,
walking.
or maybe on horseback.
By horseback, maybe. But the plans were because they had the land, you know, they had the church.
Yeah.
They were expanded inland. You know, that was the whole idea. I don't know if there were plans to build huge missions inland or just to expand.
Yeah. Why is the city of San Bernardino called the Gate City?
The Gate City, San Bernardino was nicknamed the Gate City in 1905. There was a promotional supplement to the San Bernardino Sun newspaper that came out. And it was called that because San Bernardino has, from the day one, when the city was first settled, it was settled by Mormon missionaries from Salt Lake City. They settled in what is now the San Bernardino Valley, purchased the land from Don Antonio Maria Lugo, who was owner of the Mexican rancho. You know, of course, California was under Spanish control, then it was Mexican control, and then American control. And they brought from the very beginning, this area here was so strategically located. There's people coming from across the desert, from the East Coast. There we go to San Bernardino. San Bernardino, you know, is as much as it's a dry climate, but there are lots of water sources, you know, underground. And also we also had, you know, natural. We had hot springs here. We still do, and it just became a geographically significant location for travelers. And almost overnight, during the time when the Mormon settlers were here in the 1850s, this became a very important transportation town. Not only for the Mormons going from Salt Lake, but from people who come from other directions. And it's just mushroomed. It's to this day, you know, even when we came out on Route 66 highway, in 1966, we traveled across. Of course, the country was built up, you know, more than it was in the 1850s. But once you cross this vast Mojave Desert, you go through little towns of Victorville and
Yes.
which were very small back then, and then all of a sudden you're San Bernardino.
San Bernardino.
Before you get to Los Angeles, before you get to anywhere else, you're in San Bernardino.
Yeah, and that's probably the reason why, before the freeways, Route 66
Sure,
was the main passage that brought
Exactly.
people from the East Coast as well as from the South to the West, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course you have the Indian trails.
Yeah.
And then you have the wagon roads. Then you have the early highways, Route 66, and then a freeway, and of course the railroads. I mean, it's all,
Yeah,
it's
we
so
will. I
strategically
just
located.
I would definitely want to deal a little more time on the railroad as well as the Route 66 celebration that we have today here in San Bernardino, all of that. But we are going to take a short break.
Okay.
After the break,
Sounds
when we
good.
come back, we will talk more about some of the present situations, so also things that we do as historic remembrance in our city. Okay?
Okay.
So
sounds
please
good.
stay with us. There's a lot more to come. Very interesting. Don't go away.
Do you want to fall in love with God? I'm sure we all want to. The book of Psalms contains the directions. Thousands of years ago, people like you and me talked to God out of the depths of their hearts, revealing an intimate love. Psalms are the expression of the faith in God by people around 3,000 years ago. God was not a mere abstract creator, but was present, involved, and a real person of power and emotions. Now, when we read or listen to the Psalms, we can know the intensity of this love. Entering into the influence of the Psalms, we can find a path to know and love God. To know more about the Psalms, you should get a copy of Father Mike Manning's booklet, The Psalms. It will help you to understand the 150 Psalms better as he has categorized them. He uses the technique of acts: adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. Get your copy today and know the categories. Learn to pray with the Psalms.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Get your copy today.
Welcome back. We are having a wonderful dialogue about the city of San Bernardino with Nick Cataldo, who is the president of the Historical and Pioneer Society of San Bernardino. Nick, what are some of those prominent things that you can probably name about the city of San Bernardino, which gives it its great importance in the map of the country?
Well, San Bernardino, as I mentioned earlier, it's the importance of being transportation.
Transportation.
In San Bernardino, we had the stagecoach stop in downtown San Bernardino for transportation. The early highways, the National Old Trails Road, which brought the first Model T, early automobiles in the early 1900s, came through San Bernardino before it went to Los Angeles. And then Route 66, it came right through town, which brought lots of people. It built the town up. It brought celebrities. So we've got a lot of celebrities that come through. We've had a kind of interesting history of San Bernardino, a lot of firsts, a lot of interesting nostalgic tidbits.
What would be some of them?
Well, one of them is there were two brothers, Richard and Maurice McDonald. They came to San Bernardino around 1940, and they opened a barbecue stand near 14th and E Street, and they sold barbecue sandwiches. They also sold hot dogs and hamburgers and a variety of things, and it became a kind of a high school hangout for San Bernardino High School, which is just close by. It was decided after a few years that, rather than having such an extensive menu, they were going to limit their menu to what they were selling the most of, and those were burgers and fries. In the beginning, they had car hops that would come, and they would come to, it was the roller skates, and they kind of like watching an old movie, American Graffiti movie. And anyway, they decided they closed the place down for a short time, reopened it, and they changed the service where they hired people to work specific jobs, whether it be French fries or burgers or whatever, milkshakes, and they turned into a fast, the first speedy service, they called it. And
The fast food
fast food, yeah.
chain.
And it started out, it was just one restaurant. Again, the building is still there. Well, not the building. There's the original building is torn down. The McDonald Brothers office is in the back, set back, and there's a sign up in the corner. It's one of the early signs, I think from the early 50s, mentioned about McDonald's burgers, 15 cents, which of course not anymore. But right now that's the museum, the original original McDonald's museum. And it was started by Richard and Maurice McDonald. The food was top of the line because everything was fresh. Much of what they had were local, from
Locally produced.
dairy produce. Yeah. And if you were to go on the internet now and you look up McDonald's, chances are you're going to see McDonald's Corporation starting in the 1950s in Illinois or somewhere else. They forget about Richard and Maurice McDonald.
McDonald's, and they forget probably about San Bernardino.
In San Bernardino too, you're right. And in fact, there were a couple high school students during the time, former San Bernardino high school students named Glenn Bell and Neil Baker. And they were both very much inspired by the McDonald brothers, what they were doing. And Glenn Baker started a stand called, he called it Bell's Burgers. And then he started Taco Tia. And then Taco Tia eventually evolved as they expanded and he had people working for him. He started Del Taco and Taco Bell. And then, I can't think of his first name, but his last name is Gallardi. He worked for Bell, and they both started in a place called the Wienerschnitzel. And
so even the Wienerschnitzel
it all kind of had a connection with McDonald Brothers. And
they probably were inspired by these two brothers.
They were, you're right. And that's some of the other things there. Chester Carlson, he was also a graduate from San Bernardino High School. He invented the prototype of the Xerox machine.
Really?
The Xerox machine.
So the photocopying
that's started
originates from San Bernardino.
We have, if you're interested in, people are interested in the Old West. If you remember the Old West, there was one of the Western personalities. His name was Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp and his family lived in San Bernardino. They lived right on the outskirts of San Bernardino, which is actually part of Redlands today. It was not, there were no Redlands at the time. So they lived out here. There's a well-known actor still alive today. His name is Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman was born in San Bernardino. He was born in North San Bernardino. He also came back some years later, and he worked for a short time as with Animal Control while he was a budding actor. Because of Route 66 and the bringing everybody and everybody out here, we had a lot of movie stars came out here, as well as the railroads coming out. The Santa Fe Railroad brought people, so there were lots of celebrities that came through. And
Santa Fe Railroad has also played a vital role in the development of the country as well, right? Because of the transportation.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Transportation of produce as well as other kind of goods to different parts of the country, right?
Absolutely. When the railroads came in, when the first transcontinental railroad came through in 1869, I guess it was, that really connected the country together. And Santa Fe, which is now called BNSF, the citrus industry at one time, there were well over 40,000 acres, I believe, at one time. In San Bernardino Valley. I'm not sure exactly what the dimensions were. It was citrus and also the first wine country was in San Bernardino County, more like in the west end, from like North San Bernardino going towards through Rancho Cucamonga, part of Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario to Riverside.
Oh.
And one time there were over 60 wineries.
Really?
Yeah, now there are 3. I think there's
Yeah.
3 left. There's
Nick, we shared about, you shared about the importance of the city of San Bernardino and the many beautiful world famous, business ventures that have started from this city and its prominence. But what is, in your opinion, the status and the situation of San Bernardino city today?
For San Bernardino, just like any other city, has always had, even at the best time, there's always going to be some things that are not going quite right. There's going to be some blight. There's going to be some business or streets going downhill or whatever. During the mid '80s, we started having infiltration of gangs from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
And that's when, they're going all over, but it seemed like San Bernardino, as a county seat for the largest county in the country, because of its location, because, again, location means it's so great, but also the fact that this is where the county courthouse is. This is where all service, social services, trials and what have you. We started getting a lot of the Bloods and Crips. It became more infiltrated with that. During the mid-'80s, Kaiser Steel in Fontana, which is not in San Bernardino, but it's very close, one of the largest industries for this whole area, decided they were going to close down. And eventually they evolved into California Steel, and I'm not sure what is there now, but that was a big factor. A short time later, almost overnight, Santa Fe Railroad decided they were going to close down their shops in San Bernardino, and they were going to move a lot of the workers, majority of the workers, to Topeka, Kansas, or Barstow. But this is, technology is wonderful, but because of technology, we now have ways of doing things without having manpower. So they cut back on workforce. And also Norton Air Force Base, which I think the writing was somewhat, it was on the wall, or was warnings for years that Norton was not going to, such a strong presence, but it wasn't always going to be the way it is. And sure enough, within a few years, Norton cut down their workforce. They closed a lot of the shops. Kaiser, of course, changed, and Norton closed. And Norton, supposedly in the beginning, I think it was announced that they were going to lose about 10,000 workforce, but it was more than that, because if you're losing 10,000 people, those 10,000 people have to shop somewhere.
Exactly.
They have to eat somewhere.
Yeah.
So then you have all these businesses closing because it's a domino effect. And that has been a big crux, starting around late 80s to early 90s. Since then, if you go to the train station now, there's lots of activity. The trains are coming through all the time.
Yeah.
Lots of activity, but you see machines doing the work.
Yeah.
There are people pushing the buttons, I guess.
Yeah.
Norton has evolved into the San Bernardino International Airport, which is becoming stronger and stronger. Mostly for cargo shipping. That's for FedEx and Amazon, and they're coming through. And I believe just recently started getting commercial flights.
Commercial flights,
fact,
yes, that's what I hear.
But besides that, that was awful. But the city, the leadership, I say not the leadership or the powers to be, the council, everybody collectively did not learn from the past. And we talk about the importance of history.
Importance of history.
I'm going to back up a little bit, but every town starts out somewhere, and they've had ups and downs. People, they're not always collectively learning from the past. They make the same mistakes. It's like over the years, and I lived most of my life in San Bernardino, and the mayors have changed, the city council has changed, all the faces have changed. The names have changed, but the problems stay the same. it just has not been a. And also, I personally feel that the city of San Bernardino, the leadership has not looked at successful cities enough. And, I don't want to get into, I'm not a politician, but that's, I feel that it's just like, you don't have to look at Beverly Hills or someplace, really way up there, but in just the San Bernardino Valley. What does Rancho Cucamonga do? What is Riverside?
What's Riverside? That's what I was going to say.
Riverside is an
adjacent city, and what Riverside is doing, and how the different kind of progress that is bringing in.
Another issue is that probably the biggest issue is that the problem with homeless correlating with crime. Not every homeless person is going to commit crime, but there's a correlation there, and it's all over. It's not just San Bernardino, but and I talked to people that are business people that and I've even talked to other people that San Bernardino seems to get more than their fair share.
I hope things will change, because I also see now new business coming in the in the nearby places, so things might change.
I'm hoping so too.
Yes.
I'm always
I'm hopeful too.
Right. I pray about it.
Yes,
and I do whatever I can, and I think things will happen, because it's certainly the city at one point filed bankruptcy. That's about as low as you can go. And they were able to get out of bankruptcy. There's always been that. I've heard rumors that San Bernardino can go bankrupt again. I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Okay.
Thanks for the wonderful sharing.
You're welcome.
And the information that you gave with regard to our city of San Bernardino.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy, as well as be informed about great information. Thanks for being the president of the Historical and Pioneer Society of San Bernardino. Keep doing the good work that you're doing, and then
I'll do my best.
and letting people know about our history. As you said,
Exactly.
we can never forget the history.
Right, we can't. We have to. What happened in the past leads up to where we are today.
Exactly.
And prepares us for the
Prepares
future.
us for
and
the future.
It's not just something that happened, some old thing. It's
Thanks
Okay.
Thanks for sharing this with us and with our audience. And I hope you have enjoyed this dialogue, this discussion with Nick Cataldo about the city of San Bernardino, about his own personal life. Please continue to support this ministry. We are here in San Bernardino, and we are a great part of the city of San Bernardino as well. So support Wordnet and Wordnet Productions Ministry. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. So also bring the word to as many people as you can. Take care of yourself, be blessed, and may the Lord continue to bless you. Thank you.